Surf's Up fam, I'm your host, Corey Shane Brown. It is Surf's Up intention to resonate with the listeners of the San Diego community and communities beyond by sharing the stories of the creators and entrepreneurs we meet in order to discover the keys to unlocking our shared potential and inspiring others on how to develop themselves in order to live a more balanced life. This will in turn raise the community and ultimately inspire listeners to live a life of personal sovereignty and financial freedom. Before we begin, I'd kindly request that you hit the subscribe button, and if you like what you hear, give us a like and or comment down below, and hit that notification bell for upcoming episodes. All feedback is welcome. If you would like to support us, there is a Patreon link as well as affiliate links to the equipment used to produce Surf's Up podcasts in the description. If you feel inspired to create a podcast of your own, this is likely the most cost-effective way to do so. I receive a small commission without any additional cost to you. Without further ado, I would like to thank you for dropping in with us and welcome to Surf's Up Podcast. Surf's Up world, welcome to the show. Today's guest is one of the most interesting and influential people I've recently met. Hailing from Russia to the States at a very young age, this man is no stranger to adversity. Something buried deep in his being withstood the tests of a troubled youth, and he began to rise like a phoenix. Beginning his entrepreneurial career in college, he has transformed over the years into a multi-disciplinary entrepreneur, and his current title is the CEO, the Chief Expression Officer of his company Influex, where they help a multitude of coaches and other entrepreneurs structure and market their brands with authenticity. Please join me in welcoming the very unique Dmitriy Kozlov. How you doing, buddy?
I am awesome. Really great to be here. Thank you, Corey.
Yeah. So I basically wanted to start how I start with most people is a little bit of your story is wild. I don't even know where to ask you to start. But give us a little bit of your origin story. I know you moved here as a young immigrant, yep. I'm guessing.
Yeah, so I came into the States when I was 7. So was born in 89 in the Soviet Union 2 years before the split. Yeah. And my mom and dad got divorced when I was about 1. So single mom raised us, brought us to America, and it was and it gave me a really good contrast because when we came to America, our lives were well below the poverty line. Yeah. Right. It was like Section 8 housing, food stamps,
the full nine,
yard sales, Salvation Army, Jewish Family Services supporting us, all of that. But compared to Russia, it felt like, oh my God, we're so wealthy.
Yeah.
Right. We got a shower in our apartment. We've got like
it's all perspective.
A car within the first year. So it was wild.
Yeah.
So I think that gave me a really healthy lens and perspective really early on of both gratitude and a lot of drive. Because then I spent
that's actually one of the things I wrote is after reading kind of the stuff that you sent me, just one of the things that separates you is your gratitude for life and your passion to just keep pushing to better this world, as you go through it. And I don't even know where to start with your story, honestly. It is one of the most inspiring stories that I've seen. And just so everyone knows, everything that I'm talking about, I will have linked in the description so you can check out Dmitri's timeline and everything. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd say if I fast forward to now, like there's a couple of values that I stand for most. One is fullest expression, and another one is connection and community. Yeah. And I think if I go back to my childhood, it's I was an immigrant, didn't speak the language, so I couldn't fully express myself, and I didn't have a lot of connection. It was really hard for me to make friends. Got bullied a lot as a kid, and then
you didn't know any English, or
not
very,
really,
very,
very little. And so I figured that out as I got here. Yeah. So it was like, like poverty, tough time socially adjusting, all of that. So
did you have like an English class, or did you just learn it through
ESL? So English as a second language, which most of the kids in the ESL program were all Hispanic. And so there's a lot of kids that spoke Spanish in there. So they had their second language that they could all speak with each other. I'm the only Russian kid.
Yeah. So they could help each other learn, but you were like alienated,
Yeah.
Wild.
And so that actually helped me, I think, motivate myself to figure out the English language. And now I think I have a better, I'm more adept at the English language than I think most of my friends who were born in America that speak English naturally and fluently, I had to master that.
Yeah.
And then similar thing with expression, it's when I was, so I had a tough time socially adjusting. When I was 12 or 13, I discovered Eminem and started rapping. And so
where did you move again?
To the Boston area.
To the Boston area.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so when I started rapping, I also made friends on like the other side of town.
Yeah.
So I was also the only white kid in the group of friends for the most part there.
So you related it to the Eminem story. Yeah.
Yeah, deeply. And then
I think a lot of young white males did,
Yeah. So then I started to kind of like replay that in my own life as well. And the gift that came out of that.
Did that help you with learning English? Like, because I know that like singers and songwriters and lyricists like really expanded my mind on the English language further than just basic communication.
Yeah.
But like really expanding rap and freestyle definitely helped me like master the language so much better. Yeah.
And just this desire to express myself, because I was like really hurt, and then I was angry, and then rap gave me this outlet. I probably would have killed myself without it.
Yeah.
And rap gave me this outlet to express all of that. And long story short, with the rap stuff, I kind of, when I was 15, kind of dropped all of that, because I also dropped the gang lifestyle that was associated in that, like almost died a few times throughout that process. And then when I was 25, I picked the art form back up in the form of spoken word poetry. And actually now, I'm 31 now, and learning how to like rap and have the cadence again and all of that. And then
that's cool how things come full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the aloneness I think that I felt as a kid drove me to start creating community. So even in high school, I started to like throw parties and just wanted to have friends and throw events. And that led to then in my early 20s starting a community for young entrepreneurs that was called Maverick Next at the time, which was a huge part of my growth journey. Co-founded that with a mentor that a lot of young entrepreneurs have kind of gone through that have now just these huge results and really impactful businesses and lives. And I've kind of brought community into everything I do.
The guy from Maverick?
Yannick Silver was my first major business mentor.
Yeah. Yeah, I was recognizing that in your story. I don't know who it is, but I saw, based on your story, like the impact that happened in your life from like finding that first like real mentor that could really give you a structure to follow.
Yeah, well, it's funny too, because Yannick was like, he was an incredible mentor, gave me a lot of access, but not that much structure. So I was figuring a lot of things out along the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for anybody looking for mentors.
Yeah.
Is like the mentor is not necessarily going to give you the step-by-step structure.
Yeah.
But at least in my case, gave me a lot of guidance, whether directly or just energetically. And he was somebody to model. Like the way he lived his life and did business with impact at the center, joy, social capital, prioritizing family. I say the social capital piece in that he's one of the most influential people I know, and he doesn't do it through being loud about it. He does it through contribution and contributing to a lot of relationships. Yeah. So I've learned that in my own business, and now I would say I have a really large network, a lot of social capital, and I do that through just continuously showing up for how can I add value to people's lives.
That's awesome. That's truly awesome. So what keeps you motivated? Just impacting people's lives then? Or...
Yeah, I'd say like so I'll share my personal purpose in the way that I've best identified it now, both through the company and personally.
Yeah.
Is this concept of building a beautifully expressed world. And I'd say like be you to fully expressed, like a beautifully expressed. So there's this full expression and that a beautifully expressed world is through your fullest expression. And so for me, it's bringing forth my fullest expression and believing the world is better when people are fully expressed.
Yeah.
And so I think what keeps me motivated is that concept of like there's so much within me that is there to express. So I want to express that out to the world.
Yeah.
And I want to liberate others' expression to have that come out to the world, knowing that most of the wars and most of the pain and most of what happens in the world is from people not expressing their love fully and authentically and not expressing their gifts fully and authentically, trying to put themselves into boxes and cages of how they think they should be.
And would you say like not just expressing their love, but expressing themselves fully regardless of the emotion that it is?
Right. Because, I look at love as more of like,
of course,
the life force moving through us. But whatever, expressing, like finding a healthy way to express whatever is within.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it gets projected, right? As like in like shadow ways that ends up creating more harm than good.
Yeah. And that comes about when, you're doing these really passive aggressive kind of like means of, whatever it may be with whatever relationship with whatever person, you're just creating a trap. Yeah. And I learned with a past girlfriend, we actually went through therapy and learning how to communicate, like properly communicate, and not just in relationships with like your lover or whatever, but with anybody is crucial. And there's a quote that's like, I think it's Tony Robbins. I'm not sure if he stole it, but the quality of your communication is directly proportional to the quality of your life.
Yes.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
And I fully agree with you on just helping people to realize that there is something special in all of them. And once they begin to realize that and express it and find means of expressing it, like for me, it's through my writing, through the podcast, and also just I have a book, like a book that I like to present to people, like kind of spoken word style. And I only do it at like festivals or like like little small key, low key events and stuff like that. But it's one of my favorite things to do, And people always like come up to me and they're like, how did you learn to do that? Or it's like I just enjoyed doing it, so it comes naturally. You know what I mean? So yeah, that fully resonates with me. So, sorry.
Yeah, I'll share one quick thing.
Go ahead.
The other thing that really motivates me is, you mentioned in the beginning, which is gratitude. It's just like gratitude is so motivating because it's being so grateful for everything that I've been given in my life and constantly holding that awareness of like how privileged I am for having the life that I've had so far, including all of the struggles and all of the pain, and how grateful I am for the life that I have. And that keeps me motivated to keep giving and contributing more. And to keep like showing up and never take any of it for granted.
What's really interesting is it's a thought experiment that I've done multiple times that my therapist challenged me to do. But it's like when you're like really angry or sad or whatever, like force yourself to either say or write down. Writing it down is better, but 10 things. Just push through. Just write 10 things. It can be the smallest things. It can be your feet. Like, what I mean? It can be just the fact that you have a house. Yeah. Get through 10 and see where your emotional state has shifted. Yeah. And just be aware of it. And it is mind-boggling how quickly we can actually shift our focus just by forcing our minds to hear something different than all the like pain and anguish that is like circling around in there. But like audibly saying it out loud or writing it down.
Yeah, gratitude is the only emotion we choose. Every other emotion flows through us and we get to accept it. Gratitude is the only emotion we can actually consciously choose and cultivate within ourselves really quickly through just action. We can choose, I'm going to be grateful right now. And we can bring in the gratitude, even while other emotions are there.
Never thought about that.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's actually, that's a revelation for me. Thank you. So who inspires you besides Yannick? Is there anyone else that's like really...
Yeah, I'd say so 3 of my biggest heroes are, one is Richard Branson.
Hell yeah.
And I've gotten to meet him and his family a few times on his island, which has been awesome.
Nice.
And Richard, because he plays life at such a big level, and he's so joyful and so healthy and fit and prioritizes family and has a really big impact in the world without sacrificing himself. In fact, he's an embodiment of like, what is it like to live your fullest expression of joy while playing a big game?
Sometimes most of the times I've ever watched it, I'm not a big fan of Shark Tank, honestly. But I love when he's on there and he'll like disagree with the other investors. And like, because you can just see that he's coming from a different place. And
I don't think Richard Branson's on Shark Tank. We might be Richard Branson's like the blonde.
Yeah, no, he's been on there.
Oh, cool. I got to watch that episode then.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, he's been on there. And what's funny is like all the other investors are like, I don't know. It was this little Asian girl that started an app for meditation, and she already had like funding and stuff, but she wanted more, and they kind of came in there, and like some of the investors like kind of insulted her, and was like, no, we're not gonna give it to you. You're just like looking for extra money, and she's like, yeah, but I'm trying to impact the world. I'm not looking, I'm not asking you for your investment to fill up my pockets. Like, I'm asking for your investment so I can reach more people. And like, he was the only one that like really heard her. And like, it was really interesting.
Yeah, he listens really well. That's one thing I noticed too. Like, being with him is he'll always have a notebook with him, and he's always writing down what people say, no matter who's talking. He's writing things down and he's listening. It's a really active listener.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'd say two of my other heroes, and at some point throughout this podcast, I'll do a little poem that's a combination of these three heroes. So Steve Jobs and Eminem. So Eminem, because he was just like brought forth my fullest expression when I was a kid and just helped me move through so much. And Steve Jobs, in that he was one of the first to inspire me in my early 20s. Right after he died, I read the Steve Jobs book by Walter Isaacson, his biography, and just his vision and his merging of polarities of like in the 70s, he took big business and hippie culture and merged them. And in the Apple culture, he took technology and humanity, which were like very different things, like humanity and art being over here in like the hippie culture especially, and then technology being like IBM. And he said, hey, let's take the best of these worlds and merge them, and that's what Apple stands for.
Yeah.
And he was just such a visionary, and just the way he created products out in the world and led. And then when I embraced Richard Branson as a hero, that helped my leadership as well, because Steve Jobs was much more like hard-hitting leader, sometimes perceived as an asshole and all of that. And
he definitely was.
Yeah. And so like combining those three heroes has helped architect who I am. And I think anytime, I love the question, who inspires you? Because so much of who we are is infused with who's inspired us throughout our lives.
Yeah, who are we modeling?
Yeah.
Because there is a deeper core us that can shine through. But for the most part, day to day, we're operating from our subconscious, which is based on everything that we put in it. And whether it be the chemicals from supplements, or the food that we eat, or the media that we consume, or whatever, we are the output of everything we put in.
Yeah.
Now there is a transcendent self beyond that, where we're expressing like what is truly in our nature and is not part of the program. But
yeah, that's the fullest expression. Even our company, one of our taglines is express your essence.
Yeah.
And there's a core essence to who you are that is not programmed. And yet how it expresses itself is part of our consciousness programming.
Yeah, that's when you bypass like the ego and
I'd say like when you fuse the ego with the spirit.
Yeah.
When you take like, because ego structure is important. It's so much a part of who we are. It's how we figure out and navigate life. That's what makes us unique.
And it protects
spirit
us.
And soul. Spirit is the same for everybody. But the unique expression of the soul comes through like our ego structures and our humanity, which is unique and distinct. We're each our living work of art.
Yeah. Have you ever... So one thing that I want to do with this podcast, that the book that changed everything for me, there's two. There's a lot. But there's one in particular that... Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
Did you ever? Yeah.
I read a lot of Robert Kiyosaki stuff when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, that book changed everything for me last year when I read it. It put all the previous books that I had read into like a perspective that financially made sense. That you didn't just need to better yourself as a person, but you could be financially independent and not like feel like money is evil or any of that, and just like just that in itself, and realizing that it's actually your duty to take it upon yourself to become financially independent of the system, so that you can impact the world, so that you have the freedom to go impact the world,
right?
Because previous to that, you can't. I mean, you can to a degree, but
Yeah, it's like that idea where previous to that, you're playing a role that somebody else is telling you to play.
Yeah.
In independence, you're playing a role that you perceive you want to play. Yeah. And then in interdependence, you're playing a role as a part of the larger whole.
Yeah.
But where everybody is sovereign and making their own choices of how they want to contribute. And the independence phase of that is really important, where it's like, because you're not tied in to like a rule book that somebody else made for your life.
Wow. That is perfect. That is a perfect explanation. My word for this year, I know this girl, and we talked right before New Year's, and she was like, yeah, I pick a word for every year, just one word. And she's like, what has been your favorite word in the past years? And my favorite word of all time is sonder. And that is the realization that every passerby has a life as complex and interesting as your own. Mm-hmm. But my word for this year was sovereign, because I wanted to achieve.
Love it.
To achieve I want to help other people realize their personal sovereignty and chase financial freedom. That is that's my quote for the podcast. But sovereign in the fact that I make my own money and I take care of myself, and I know how to take care of my body so that I can show up every day. And I know how to take care of my mind so that I can express it, and then fifthly, spiritually, so that it stays all intact, because if you don't have like that, like true basis of why you're doing it, then you're just, I don't know how to explain it, but there's no foundation there. Having the why is what gets you up in the morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Almost no matter what that day's circumstances are. I love that you're focused on sovereignty this year. That's probably been my biggest recent focus as well. It's like, and there's layers of it. Like there's, you can develop all the sovereignty and then learning emotional sovereignty. And I've been working on my own codependency and like realizing that. I'm like, whoa, there's so many different layers and levels to sovereignty and it's a constant life practice. And even before entering relationships or business partnerships, the more you have your own sovereignty developed and they have their own sovereignty developed, then you can form sovereign partnerships or sovereign unions. And that's healthy interdependence. And
you can respect each other's boundaries. And I believe that we've all been going through a mass awakening since about this time last year, when I hit an awakening stage this month last year, where Surf's Up podcast started. I just knew I had to do it. I love podcasting. Podcasting saved my mind at a very dark time in my life. And I ended up back in a relationship that was unhealthy. And last year, about this time, I let it go because I realized that I needed to, like you just said, embrace that emotional sovereignty. To where you don't need someone else to keep your mind stable and your heart. That was huge for me. And then it just started, like you said, there's so many layers. And then the deeper you go, you start realizing like it's like a stack, or it's like stair steps. You know what I mean? Whether it be financial sovereignty, emotional sovereignty, mental sovereignty. So not being affected by everybody's opinions. And, that's a huge one for me, is really just like having friendships, but not letting those friendships dictate who I am.
And not needing other people to be different. Like I've been playing with this concept of equanimity a lot. It's like, hey, everybody has their right to their opinion and their choices and their thoughts, including like politically. It's so charged right now, and I'm just like, hey, whatever side you're on and whatever extreme you're in, cool, I got you as a human. And we can have that conversation. And like because I'm sovereign in my own choice, then I can hold space for anybody's perspectives and opinions without making them wrong as a human for it.
And at that point, we can have a conversation that actually gets us somewhere.
Right, because we can understand each other.
And we can even continue to disagree, but at least we have oh gosh, I just lost the word.
Like the space for compassion for each other, understanding.
Yeah, what's it called when you like understand like another person's religion?
Acceptance, I guess, or
no, it's not the word, but it's okay. oh man, it just ran right out of my brain.
It'll come back right
it's
when
like
it needs
right
to.
there. But yeah, just having that like understanding that we all want to coexist.
Yeah.
You know? And the more we understand the other side, the more we can coexist with them and not try to change them. And we can all live in a community, and that's why I love San Diego, because it is the quintessential like every race is here. Every people from every country are in this city. It's I don't know New York, like, because New York is the ultimate hub, but like
I think there's such a high degree of acceptance and evolution of consciousness, at least in the community that we hang out with in San Diego. And there's so many different ranges of opinions and perspectives. Like, I can be talking to one friend who's like, hey, I'm going to church tomorrow. I can be talking to another friend who's like, hey, I was channeling alien languages last night. And I can be talking to another friend who's like, hey, I'm going to like satsang and this is my guru. And like, we're all hanging out in a room and totally cool and like learning from each other and appreciating each other's perspectives. And there's nobody's trying to like sell their way to somebody else. But if somebody gets curious, then you never know when that moment's going to hit where you're like, huh, that kind of makes sense. Like, I never thought about it like that. Yeah, you get to embrace new concepts for yourself. Yeah. And then that's when evolution, can truly start to take place for your life or for whoever you're going to impact later on. So at this juncture, we're going to take a break real quick. Cool. And we'll be right back with Dmitriy Kozlov. And we're back. So in our break, we started to talk about, you asked me kind of like what was my focus right now. And really staying disciplined is what I'm working on the most. I'm terrible for staying up late and working on things and then sleeping in the next day till noon or 1 and not getting up when my alarm goes off at 9. So I've been really working on like hitting snooze as least as possible and setting up a routine, which you can see like right there, that like when I wake up, there's no more guesswork in what I have to do. I just get up and I read that and I'm like, okay, 1, 2, and it's basically wake up, do my affirmations, hydrate. First thing you should ever do when you wake up is drink water. Instantly. Like, that is I usually do water with some electrolytes or just some salt and lemon. I do, I just do lemon juice. Dash of lemon juice, full big thing of water. And then I like to do like those buys or even like the yerba mates, a little bit of caffeine, and then I take a supplement that's LES Labs called Mood Boost. And so I just got an idea. Sorry. Go for it. I just got an idea. So to monetize the podcast, I need to start doing affiliate marketing. Oh, absolutely. And I just thought about I could use Mood Boost and all the LES Labs products that I use constantly. But having L-theanine, what I learned about a lot of biohacking. And L-theanine mixed with a little bit of caffeine, it calms down. There's no jitters, which I do clean caffeine, which is like green tea and stuff. I don't do coffee, but if you do coffee, you get the jitters and everything like that. If you do L-theanine with it, it cuts that out. It stabilizes it. Yeah, I have some L-theanine nootropic I take, and 5-HTP and all those. Like Superfood and Bulletproof coffee. I've heard of Bulletproof. Awesome. I hear it's the one. Yeah, like I put protein in my coffee as well, and maca root and some other powders. And it just like supercharges my coffee. Someone just told me about maca root today. I was I called the IV place, those IV drip places. And he mentioned that ashwagandha and maca root for like keeping healthy testosterone levels and stuff is like the number one thing. So let's talk about discipline a little bit. I've got some thoughts on that. Yeah, for sure. Because even what you're sharing about the sleep thing, I've been figuring out my sleep cycles for like years of like what's the best flow for me. And right, because I'll stay up till sunrise, and then typically I get to a point where I'm like, all right, well the sun's already up, like I'm just gonna push through. And I was on a phase like a month ago where I was doing like
a 32 to 36 hour stint and then sleeping for like 14 hours and doing that repetitively. And it was just like, I was getting shit done, but I was not my best self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think everybody has their natural flow, and that flow changes over time in different periods of life.
For sure.
And I've been kind of like sorting mine out. And if I'm in a more execution period of life, then for sure I'll go to bed earlier and get up earlier. But even early for me is like 8 is like early for me to get up because I'm also a late nighter. And then there's some times where I'm in a much more creative period of life. I'll stay up to like 3, 4, 5 in the morning and sleep till noon, and I'm good with it.
I recently discovered that I always wanted, because even since I was a kid, I would stay up late.
Yeah.
And there's this idea that a lot of us have ADD, and that's a whole nother discussion whether we actually, ADD is a real thing or not.
I've got a nickname because my short name for Dmitry is Dima, and one of my nicknames is AD Dima. It's one of my archetypes. And when I take Adderall, it's Addy Dima. So I've got both archetypes. They show up differently.
Yeah. So what I finally realized was the reason that I can get so much creativity and stuff done after midnight is because there's literally just 90% less distractions.
Yep.
Your phone is not going to ring, and there's just a quietness to the world in general.
Yep. And everybody's got their like focus power hour.
Yeah.
So are you familiar with the four different sleep types? Like lion,
no.
bear. So let me share these real quick. I think you'll resonate with these.
Cool.
There's lions, bears, wolves, and dolphins. And basically, a lion is a sleep type.
I love the dolphin. I love the fact that there's a sea creature in that.
Dolphins are the worst. So lions get up at like 5 or 6 in the morning. They get more shit done before most of us will get up and have breakfast.
Okay, they're the 4 AMers.
Yeah,
they're the 4:30.
Like 4:35. Like they're, or sometimes 6, but like they're the up at sunrise and they're crushing it. They get so much done by lunch. But like 4 p.m.
That's what we all try to be. Or think we want to be.
Yeah, there's this perception that everybody's got to be a lion, which is so not true.
Yeah.
Because even like Dave Asprey, who I learned this concept from, and he's the founder of Bulletproof, he's a wolf.
Yeah.
And I'm a wolf, which is you stay up late, you get a ton of stuff done creatively, you write really well, especially after midnight, and then you kind of sleep in and you're good with it. And if you try to turn that person into a 5 a.m.er, it just doesn't work.
I've been trying to do that for like so much of this year, and I finally just I got to a point where I just accepted. Yeah. No, my best creative time is not in the morning. It's right at the stroke of midnight.
And then with bears, they're like your standard 9 to 5ers. Like get up like relatively early, but not super early. They're like just more of a standard work schedule, standard life schedule. They're balanced. And then there's dolphins who are just all messed up. They're just like sleep at random times.
Okay, I'm probably either a wolf or a dolphin.
Yeah. If you try wolf schedule, but like dolphins is like you just struggle with insomnia your whole life. But it's really important to know this flow, as well as I've found for myself of like, what do I do when? Because there's discipline, which is like trying to stick to a structure, which is important. And then there's flow, which I've found for myself. Like if I get up first thing in the morning, after I do my morning rituals, there's certain things I'm good at in the morning, which are response and react. And that's cool. Let me leverage that. Let me actually, people say don't check email first thing in the morning. And I'm like, hey, let me do my email and Slack and responses to other people first thing in the morning because my brain's not in proactive mode. Yeah. Let me do all my calls and meetings with people in the afternoon because I crush it in the afternoon with like creative flow with other people. And then let me do my solo creative work when I'm generating my own energy in the evening and night because that's when I'm most creative and productive and I don't want the world's input. Yeah. And so I found, but if I tried to reverse
Thanks for that insight because that's about where I'm at.
Yeah. And if I tried to reverse it, right, if I took the advice of, hey, don't check email first thing in the morning and do all your first most important things first thing in the morning, I just resist it like hell and my brain's trying to but I don't want to do anything, so I just procrastinate. Or if I try to do it in the afternoon, if I try to focus in the afternoon, I'm the most ADD in the afternoon. I'm all over the place. But if you put me on the phone with people, I crush it, like podcasts, something like this, like let's play. It's a conversation. Yeah. And then at night or in the evening, then it's like, cool, let me focus, let me do what I want to do. Yeah. And if I tried to reverse all that flow, it just wouldn't work. And I would judge myself as, hey, I'm being undisciplined. But the truth is, my body has its own natural rhythm. And let me find what that natural rhythm is, and then it's easy to be
and
disciplined.
Play into your strengths instead of trying to change everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I like. I was like, oh, I'm going to, in your terms, like, I'm going to be a lion. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to do my crypto. And then in the afternoon, I'll do my podcast. And then at night, I'll do my writing.
Yeah.
But it's more so like now it's turning out to that. No, what you're going to do is you're going to take different days to do crypto and the podcast, separate those days completely. And then I'm going to, in the mornings, I'm going to do the things that I already know how to do so that I can get going and harness a little momentum. So like I get up and like today I went for a run, you know, come back, make a protein shake, take a shower, you know, make a couple phone calls, like, you know, just get all the distractions out of the way, you know, like just handle them while they're in front of you. And then, so that when we sat down, like there's nothing, all the stuff that I was like, you know, I'm like, oh, I got to focus on the podcast this morning, get it all ready. And then I got all this other shit that I'm like, you know, putting off. I'm procrastinating. I'm like, just knock it out. You know, I read this book and the guy talks about like, if there's anything that you've got to do and it takes you less than like 3 minutes to just do it.
Yeah, just do it right away.
Just do it. Just knock it out.
Habit.
Yeah. And don't put it on your to-do list. Like just bang it out right then and there.
Put it on your list, then it'll take up space in your mind. It's like, oh, I got to do that thing.
Yeah.
You can just do it right away. You do it.
Yeah. And that's like, you know, a lot of people don't agree with like, you know, shop locally as much as you can, you know, but fuck yeah, Amazon. Like anytime I need something, like I realized today I didn't have, you know, one of my supplements and I was just like, boom, you know, I can handle it right then and there and it's out of my mind. It'll be here in a day and a half and, you know, it is what it is. So, yeah. And so going back to discipline, really, I've found the number one thing is having discipline with the body translates into every other area of your life.
I think some of the most successful entrepreneurs I know started out as fitness trainers.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
And I think there's a reason for that, because it's like not only you learn to discipline yourself and you learn to translate that discipline to others, and then that especially with the body, because I've found for myself too, the more embodied I am, the more effective I am as a leader, as a communicator, as all of that. It's
because your energy meridians are balanced between your mind and your body. You're not your energy is not all just in your cranium, just like overloading you. Yeah, you know what I mean. So the metaphor behind Surf's Up is to be balanced, so we can ride this wave that is life together. And because all energy, everything, even matter, like even this table is still atoms spinning and vibrating at a certain wavelength, you know? So everything in life is waveform energy, and we're all riding this energy wave, and to have balance is the most productive way to have a good life, you know what I mean? And have a life that you can impact other people, and not get hung up on the strife so much. Yeah, you know what I mean. But to kind of just laugh it in the face, and that when you get to that point where you can just like really, just it's like water off a duck's back. You know what I mean? And
what are some of your best metaphors between surfing and business that you found, or surfing in life? Well,
just how like we were just talking about how your day is, you know, you wake up and you're different in the morning than you are from the afternoon, than you are from the evening. That is like a wave. That's like, you know, the morning is like, you got to put in the effort, you know, like you got to work out. That's kind of like paddling into a wave. Then timing, you know, you got to have proper timing to catch the wave. And then when you really like get that momentum, you got to like harness that momentum and you got to drop into that wave, which is like when you're like really like gaining momentum through your evening, and then like using that momentum to like propel you to your destiny, which is your creative nature in the evening. I guess that would be the metaphor for your day. And it can be the same thing in business. You know, you're gonna try, you know, and there's gonna be a lot of fails, and then eventually you're gonna like start to figure it out and like figure out your timing. And at that point you can drop into that wave and you can really start to harness that energy into creating a profitable business and not just like spinning your wheels. Like that's what I'm trying to figure out right now is like how I'm going to monetize this. And I got ideas, but I haven't pulled any triggers yet. You know, like I need to do the affiliate marketing. I'm still like working on getting my subscriber count up before I can monetize through ads. And
it's just like with surfing, like you got to ride a lot of waves till you really know what you're doing. And then you can catch bigger and bigger waves and stay on them longer and longer. And when you're starting out a podcast or starting out anything, like you're just in the phase of like, all right, let me like learn how to paddle enough to at least like catch a wave a little bit, and it's okay if I just keep falling off. And then eventually you get better and better at it, and then you just have this confidence of knowing like when to go, when not to go, when to rest.
I've screwed up this podcast through episode, I think 5 or 6. Probably no, even through episode 7, I had something go wrong. It wasn't until 2 episodes ago, episode 8, where everything just went off. Actually, even episode 8, there was something that just a file format was wrong, and it screwed up my intro. And it wasn't literally until the last episode that everything just finally fell in line. You know what I mean? But it was so rewarding to realize that all those mistakes led to getting it really harnessed.
Right.
You know what I mean? And learning that Alex Terranova, that was on episode 7, he's a coach and podcaster, and the light went out, and he stopped. I got frustrated, and he stopped me. He's like, this is okay. Just like take it in stride. Let's just continue the conversation. And it was a big learning point for me to just like, the content is the real gold. Not the not the perfect production.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, thanks, Alex, for that one. And then, effort goes along with discipline. Like I was telling you, my acronym for what I'm writing is, so basically I'm getting now to the master keys of life, but the keys in life are to the human experience are deep as fuck, which is DEEPAF, and that stands for discipline, energy, effort, perspective, awareness, and focus. And the balance between the 6 of these components is how you really start to become a master of your mind and your spirit and your body.
And I love that you got it in an acronym. I got acronyms all over the place for different areas of my life.
They're huge. The metaphors are what really... Sometimes metaphors can really misguide you if you use them a little too much, or you go like too like spacey on them. But I think that they're very important for painting a picture in the mind for people to relate.
Language. I have a little quote in my home. It's language is the paintbrush of the human experience. Or
straight
language
up
is the paintbrush of human existence. So I think the way that we language things and use, I love the concept of word artistry. And I'm a spoken word artist as well.
I
like
fully
the way
agree.
that we use our words, and if we resonate with them, like if we resonate with an acronym that helps us remember things or connect to something, it's much better than just being like, oh, there's these 6 concepts. It's like, no, deep AF. And you think of deep AF and it integrates all of those concepts at once.
And so I finally hit a point of, those are the keys, but I in my writing the other night, I came upon congruence as a master key. And congruence can't be achieved until you have all the other ones in line. You don't have to be perfected in all the other areas, but you have to have all 6 before congruence can even be a real part of your life. And at that point, once you have congruence, then distractions and hang-ups and all those things that are slowing people down and stopping them, those things are not even in your awareness once you have congruence. Things that can slip you up, whether it be addiction or whatever, those things don't even enter into your field of perspective because you are on your path. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think mostly I'd say my life is pretty congruent. I got a lot of shit that enters my awareness, including like addiction and all sorts of struggles, inner, outer. And I think the congruence is what helps us, life's always going to throw stuff at us. And if we're congruent with ourselves and our values and purpose, then that's the thing that allows us to keep moving through it no matter what. And give us something to return back to. Like earlier we were talking about on your path, off your path. to me, it's like once you start on your path, you're always on your path. It just sometimes get veered off a little bit.
Yeah.
And when you veer off, it's that reminding ourselves of like, what are we being congruent to at our core?
Yeah.
That allows us to come back to like a more direct path, and knowing it's never going to be direct, and that oftentimes the things that throw us off that seem like distractions can actually be, they're there to teach us our greatest lesson.
Yeah.
So I've just learned no matter what comes into my life, if it's there, it's got something for me, and I can choose how I engage in it.
True. Yeah, I totally feel that. More so what I meant as far as it not entering your awareness is just the fact that here lately I've been like learning to cut things out of my life, to not spread myself too thin.
Yeah.
And realizing that as I spread myself too thin, that if I would have just kind of listened to the universe like a week ago and like followed more of what it was telling me, and I knew that instead of being stubborn and trying to do it my way, that I would have relieved myself of some like headache and heartache, or not really heartache here lately, but mainly headaches. And that there could have been so many problems that would have just been avoided, and not even consciously avoided, just by being congruent with the plan of the universe for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's more what I mean. And even the realization after the fact where you're like, oh, like, wow, I dodged that bullet and I didn't even know it. But now I know it because you know, hindsight is always 20/20. So
and hindsight gives you foresight, because then you know, like, okay, this thing happened in the
past.
That's
a big one.
Here's how I apply it in the future.
Can you say that again?
Hindsight gives you foresight.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you look back and like, oh, this didn't work out as well, I could have done this. I look at it as like, oh, this thing didn't work out well. What can I learn about this to improve my lens for the future?
Yeah, learning from your mistakes.
And I look at it as like, everything in the past happened exactly the way it happened, and that's perfect, and there's no rawness in it. And then when I look at that lens, it allows me to have this like total relaxation and forgiveness around anything that's already happened, and pull the lessons from it in a way that says, okay, and how do I want it to be in the future so I can be a master creator of my reality? And then whenever I make the past wrong for anything, it gives me this burden of like, oh, I should have done this, or this should have happened differently, which means that I'm not accepting the present, because the present includes everything that happened up to this point as it is. So if I fully accept the present, that means I fully accept the past. And if I fully accept the past, that also means that I can look at the past and say, okay, what in here created
you can look at it objectively instead of emotionally.
Yeah, and then I can put that as a lens onto my future and be like, what do I want to create in the future, and how do I take the things that life taught me yesterday or last week and apply them tomorrow so that I can show, and right now, so that I can show up differently in a way that creates more of what I want, less of what I don't want.
Do you know Joe Dispenza?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Joe's work. Yeah. I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
I hope
I don't either. But his, I discovered
his meditations are amazing.
I discovered him back in June. I saw he was on the Tom Bilyeu podcast whenever, and it's kind of like Alan Watts. Like, it's just the voice of wisdom.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I was just like, everything he said started to make sense. And I listened to every podcast or interview he had done. He just says the same thing, but in a, just a slightly but he has his keynote speech or spiel, but it's because it's the truth. It doesn't have to change to be as impactful. I listened to it, I don't know how many times.
Have you done his meditations?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty awesome. I love his, I can't really do the longer ones. Not that I can't. I'll say, I don't have a preference for sitting and meditating for 90 minutes, but I've loved his like 20 or 30-minute ones, like each morning and every night, because they give me the spaciousness to like go to that part within myself, direct my future, release the past while learning from it. So that's been really powerful.
I found a really interesting one on YouTube that was it was Wim Hof method.
Yep.
Leading in for like 20 to 30 minutes.
Nice.
Leading into it's the same video, so it like segues into Joe Dispenza Kundalini practice, and it was
I gotta check that.
It was
That's
the
awesome.
wildest fucking 50 minutes of meditation of my life. I'm mind-boggling, like, and it was cool. I did it like.
You'll have to send me that.
I will.
In the link below.
Awesome. I did it at like 5 a.m. in the morning after like just something didn't pan out with this girl, and I was like, I got energy to burn. I'm gonna go up to my favorite place, which is Kate Sessions, and I sat there and I just get plugged into YouTube. I'm such a fanatic because that's where
I got a lot of my early education on YouTube as well. When I was 19, discovered personal development. A lot of it was on YouTube and audiobooks.
Yeah, I discovered a podcast called The Art of Charm, and that led me to learning, the world of like game and all that, and then that led me to personal development, and then personal development eventually leads you into spirituality, and then you find guests from the podcast, and you like really want you're like, whoa, I want to hear more, and then you go do their audiobook, and then then through the audiobook you start getting ideas that like you'll get like a question or two here, and then you go to YouTube and you like just the wormhole just continues. That's how I've gotten a lot of my education, and then ended up meeting a lot of my heroes who then became clients, has been through following those wormholes. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, and it's just really interesting that once you just let go and like start to just put one foot in front of the other, it's a real honor to have you on, because you're completely in line with what I'm trying to do with the podcast, I'm finally those things that saved my mind. Hopefully I'm getting to do for someone else.
Yeah, you're getting to give that, and through bringing guests on, you're giving them the opportunity to give that to others.
Yeah, exactly.
And it helps accelerate awakening for others, because I love the idea of like you go a few steps ahead, and then you reach back and help the people that haven't quite taken those steps yet to take their steps.
Yeah.
And then they help others in their lives do that, and it's all like the progression of human consciousness.
Yeah. So Surf's Up, my tagline is to inspire the everyday man with the everyday man to embrace his personal sovereignty and chase financial freedom. And the reason that I say everyday man is because all those podcasts that inspired me, there was a disconnect. And the disconnect was you got millionaire talking to millionaire.
Yeah.
You got guy who's made it talking to guy who's made it. And they're giving relatively, they're giving valuable information. But they're giving valuable information to people that are more like higher middle class, that have their ducks in a row, that are like really starting to stretch to that, millionaire, like high performance individual. You know what I mean? And I looked around at my friends and I see how lost like a lot of people are. And I was like, I started to realize how much more knowledge I had than, not saying like any of my friends are like dumb. It's not that. It's just that like,
how much you gained through your recent experiences. And how much you want to give that, but in the way that because of you as the host, you get to relate to them.
Well, a lot of times at like a party or something, you only have so much that you can like express. You know what I mean? You only have you have a limited amount of time. So that's why I was like, I need to develop, something like the podcast where I can have a long format discussion with somebody to relay that information. And I wanted to do it with people from our community that are entrepreneurs, so that people that are viewing can relate to the fact that we are just humans, and that I mean, I don't know your net worth, but I'm not a millionaire. And that
I'm not in, I have $1 million plus business, but I'm not a millionaire in terms of cash worth. Yeah.
So like, I just want people to realize that you can start from where you're at, and that's the most important thing. And we have like just a minute, so let's just go ahead and take another break real quick, and then we'll be right back. I'll grab you some more water.
Cool.
Okay, and we're back.
Awesome.
So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your business, Influex, and I know that well, I'll let you take it away, but you're it's influence and expression, right? Yeah.
Yes, I named the company. I love making up words, so I named the company based
wordsmithing
on
is great.
Influence and expression, based on the belief that your greatest influence comes through your fullest expression.
Yeah.
So the more you express yourself fully, the more impact, influence, and income you can create and generate in the world.
Speaking, just if I could stop you just for a second. Speaking of wordsmithing, one of my favorite things that I've ever wordsmithed is I am a metaphorist.
Oh, nice. Metaphoricist.
Yeah. I thought that was really clever of me, but I came up with that probably last year.
Metaphoricist. There's like metaphor, there's force, and there's metamorphosis all in one.
Yeah. Or cyst. Yeah. A metamorphosist. That was
metamorphosist.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm a metamorphosist.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. That's a great metaphor.
Thank you.
I love it. So, Influex, on the surface, we're a design agency. We build personal brand sites, company brands, especially personal brands for influencers. So, hence Influex, influence and expression. Deeper down, what we deliver on the surface is design, development, messaging, story. Deeper down, we go to the core of who you are. So we I think the deepest spiritual question you can ask yourself in this life is, who am I? Yeah. And so we help people, guide people through the journey of who are you? And then we use our process to bring that out in the world through their brand in a way that amplifies their influence, meaning it makes a meaningful difference in their business, because we study direct response marketing, all the things that make a difference in the actual marketplace, and then essence and expression. So it's our other tagline is like, where beauty meets results. So if you look at the two intersecting circles of what gets business results and what's beautiful and authentic expression, and we bring those together in building brands.
That's awesome.
And I'd say the other thing I'm really passionate about.
Take some lessons from you guys.
Yeah. Even our portfolio, and like we have a lot of stuff on our blog that's a lot of free training.
Awesome.
And we just put out a lot of what we do. Because we just want the world of websites to be better, because it's usually like tens of thousands of dollars to hire our team to actually like do the work, while we teach a lot of what's behind the scenes there, both for free, and we've got a program with like a much lower tuition. It's usually about $1,000. That's called DIY, Do Influex Yourself, where we guide people through the process. And so even the free stuff we give away, we just want the world of websites to be better.
Sorry.
Yeah, all good.
I was just turning you up a little bit.
Awesome. Well, turn me up. So, and I'd say the other thing I'm really passionate about in business is just company culture and connection. And to me, the workplace is a place for your greatest evolution and your greatest source of connection. Not necessarily your greatest source of connection, but can be one of them. And so I believe if we're going to show up to work 8 hours a day or more, for most people it's more, let's show up to a place where we get to become our greatest selves and where we actually like enjoy being. So I've been really intentional about curating our virtual culture to be that.
I think
kind
the
of family
biggest
for
difference
people.
between a high performer and a regular person is more than 8 hours.
Yeah.
And
sometimes
enjoying it.
Yeah.
And not being there's a difference between a job and work.
Right.
And one of my favorite things that Robert Kiyosaki says is job stands for just over broke.
Yeah.
But being willing to do the work in whatever area it is of your life, like
do the work on yourself and show up and do the work in the world. And I think just for us, it's like I believe that the future of business is people showing up to work in their jobs, and it becomes an evolutionary environment for them.
Yeah.
Not everybody has to be an entrepreneur, but for sure, I think everybody should have the opportunity to do work that they love and where they feel like they're contributing and where they feel like they're evolving. So we're a stand for that, and then we curate our company culture
I agree. I want to help people pursue entrepreneurial entrepreneurship. However, being part of a company that is that takes care of them, because I've worked for many that, like working in a bar and stuff, where I just wasn't moving up, and it just frustrated the hell out of me. And I realized, I was like, there was a certain point that I hit that they wouldn't make me a bartender, and I just slaved over being a bar back there. And I was like, you know what? Like, it's not in the cards for me. Yeah. And I accepted. I was like, that's because maybe the universe doesn't have it intended for me to make it. Yeah, thank God,
because you were meant to do much bigger things with your life.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, once I accepted that, and I started to get the idea for the podcast, I went to my manager and I told her, I was like, I have an opportunity to do something that is impactful and not just looking for a paycheck. Yeah. And I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I was like, but I need the time to do it. So I'm gonna quit. And
good for you, man. Awesome.
And I'm not a quitter. Like it's tough for me to quit.
No, you're a starter.
You
started it. You started the thing. You didn't quit.
Yeah. Well, I've stuck with jobs so many times that like, and even relationships, and like my therapist would ask me like, why do you stay in this relationship? I'm like, just because I don't like to quit. Like I'm terrible at like I'm terrible at putting a stop.
Loyalty can be a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So you got to be loyal to your evolution, not loyal to just whatever the anchors are in your life.
True. Yeah. Thanks for that insight. That's a good one.
Yeah, man. You're a starter and a mover.
Yeah.
So to me, moving isn't quitting.
Yeah.
It's
it's
just
transitioning.
moving on. Yeah, transitioning.
Yeah.
Which I think the people who grow the most, they're dedicated, but they're also able to transition really quickly.
Adapt. Yeah.
Yeah.
We as humans are adaptation machines, you know? Typically, that can also be a double-edged sword as we adapt to whatever's most comfortable and get stuck there. And then it becomes comfortably uncomfortable in the fact that we're not being fulfilled, but it's more comfortable than breaking out of that comfort zone and like trying something new. And that, I mean, that's a very difficult place to be. But once you start getting those little rewards, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's when the true magic starts to like happen.
Yeah.
And you switch from being like an energy consumer to like an energy expressor.
Yeah.
You become a magnet for the universe to start like putting things in your life, and manifestation becomes easy.
Yeah.
Just mainly because you have the belief that it can happen.
Yeah, and you're contributing versus taking.
Yeah.
You're not looking at the world for what does the world owe me, what can I take from it?
Yeah.
But you're looking at the world of what gifts do I have, how can I contribute, and trusting that the more that you're contributing, the more is coming back to you.
Yeah.
And I think I've held that philosophy most of my life, and it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had it and I've lost it multiple times, but I think that that's right on the money. And the people that are most successful in this world all have that in common.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Most of them, even the ones that we see as being really evil, typically they're giving back somewhere that we just aren't aware of it.
Yeah,
you know?
and they're I think a lot of people get put up on a pedestal and we think they're different, and so we expect them to have different standards.
Yeah.
And like everybody's human.
Yeah.
And everybody contributes a lot. Like there's the whole conversation in the world around people hating Bill Gates, right? And Bill Gates being evil. And like without going into that whole conversation right now and the politically charged nature of that, it's like if we actually look at like what has he contributed to the world that we all use that has transformed all of our lives, there's been so much there. So if we put ourselves to the same bar as we put so many other people to that we think are like different or more successful or all of that, it's so easy to judge the world and judge other people for being evil and being wrong.
Yeah.
But we have no idea what it's actually like to play at that level.
It goes back to the Sonder. It's like, the realization that every passerby has a life as unique and, and complex as your own. And like, maybe he's done some things that you don't agree with, but he's done a lot of things that, just like I was listening to the podcast with Kevin Hart and Joe Rogan, and he talked about Kevin Hart was at a party and Jeff Bezos was there, and he was like, that's Jeff Bezos, I'm gonna go talk to him. And his friend tried to stop him and be like, oh, don't be that guy, like don't go be that guy. And he's like what do you mean? He's like, there is the most like one of the most influential people of our time, and you're gonna tell me that I shouldn't go introduce myself and like just say like, hey man, like you really inspire me, like, and I know now's not the time and place to pick your brain, but if I ever like come across you in the future and we have time to have a conversation, like I would love to just like see like how you've done that, and how you've accomplished what you've accomplished.
Yeah, everybody's human.
Yeah, and just like paying respect to, because you can come at a person with, oh, you've done this and you've done that, but they're a person. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you can shine a negative light on them, or you can shine an objective light on them. Right. Where you can explore whether, how good or evil they may have been, but...
Yeah, or just relate to them as a human while acknowledging how good or evil we may have been.
Have you ever heard about that? There was an old TV show, and it was on like network TV. It was like in the 60s or 70s.
I probably haven't heard of it.
It's called Firing Line.
Yeah, no.
So they used to have really charged debates on national television, and it would be like, it would have like one side of the fence talking to the other side of the fence, and the most interesting one was Timothy Leary was on it, and it was when like the whole like psychedelic revolution was happening, and if you ever get a chance, just look at Firing Line, and I just wish that we had something that was like objective debates on national television, where like back then, without like all the charge that we have now of like how opinionated everybody is and how emotionally reactive everybody is, back then they used to just have discussions where there was a disagreement, clearly, but they were willing to sit down and listen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of not listening going on in today's day and age.
I think it depends on the lens we take and what we look for. Because
Definitely.
I completely agree with that. Like, I see a lot of it. And, like, I just take a lens where I just try to lead in another way. Or even, like, we've got our San Diego conscious community. There's a Facebook group called San Diego Connected Community. A lot of people don't know this, and this is probably useful locally. I started that Facebook group like 6 years ago.
The conscious community one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's evolved a lot since. I moderated it for the first year. It's grown, now it's like 7,000 people. And I'm stepping back into moderating and leading that. And there's just been a lot of charge of like people just debating and hating and a lot of like pain in that group and in our whole community, especially around the election time and around the around everything with COVID. And then I think the biggest thing I noticed is like, yeah, to your point, like people aren't listening to each other. And it's actually pretty easy to go in and have the conversation of like, hey, somebody wants to be heard around something.
Yeah.
Let me hear you. Like, what do you... And then to take their projection and hear the pain behind their projection and be like, oh, yeah, like I feel you. And once they're felt and heard, then it's so much easier to connect.
Yeah.
And I've diffused so many things that have been like these fights and debates through just listening to people. Yeah. And usually it just depends on what we're listening for, because we can listen to their words, which it sounds like they're spewing venom,
but being
we can
empathetic,
listen to their heart or their pain or like where they're actually coming from. And oftentimes we're actually coming from very similar places, even when we're saying very different things.
Yeah. And once you have that, once you relate to each other on that pain level, that's when a new conversation can begin.
Your humanity kicks in, and you actually start to really care about each other.
Yeah.
So I'd love to wrap up with a spoken word piece here.
For sure. Yeah, we got plenty of time for that. So kick it off whenever you're ready. Do you need music?
No. Okay. This is
okay.
So this piece, it's a pretty short piece. It's called "Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish," and I wrote it a few years ago, and then modified it a bit since. But it's a combination of my three biggest heroes. It's the Steve Jobs 2005 commencement speech that he did at Stanford University. Have you ever watched that video?
I don't think so.
It's like one of the. It's a really amazing thing. We'll link it below.
Before we start, speaking of the three biggest heroes, for lyrics like your Eminem, I would say Jesse Lacey from Brand New was definitely mine, and then Jim Carrey is probably one of my ultimate favorites.
Nice.
Just the way he has went through life with just an open mind, and then
and full expression, like all his different faces and different characters that he plays,
and just how all his movies actually really resonate with him as a person on a deeper level than just the comedy. And a lot of people don't realize that, but The Mask is my all-time favorite. And then I have a lot of other heroes, but I would say Jim Carrey is like ultimately just someone that really, last year when I was going through my awakening, like really changed my perspective on the mask that we wear from day to day, and that there's something so much deeper than that.
Now we're literally wearing masks every day.
Yeah,
yeah,
we are.
Yeah,
literally. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
All good. I love knowing that. That's great, and I love Jim Carrey as well.
Yeah.
So this piece is like a channeling of Steve Jobs' like greatest message in that commencement speech, Eminem style, with a little bit of Branson flavor. And I've actually gotten to perform this on Richard Branson's private island in December with his son Sam Branson playing guitar. And then that's when I added some of the Branson lines
cool.
of like the about fun. So I think it'll integrate a lot of the conversation that we've had, kind of leave people with this message of like going from mind to heart, and that's what we can do with art.
Do you know how long it is?
It's about 1.5 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, if that.
That's fine.
So let's just take a deep breath together. And if you're listening to this, take a deep breath as well. You never know the last breath you will take. So face death every day. Because in the face of death, everything falls away, leaving only what is truly important to you. Your beauty, your story, your truth, your music, your soul, what you do, as unity forms within you, and your music is pouring from you, till every last bit of your fuel and your courage is used. And even when it feels like your hustle is useless, just remember that nothing is useless. And there's a reason that you've been suffering through this, because it's something that moves you to remember the truth that you've got nothing to lose and nothing to prove. So just do what you love and love what you do. Have fun at it too. Trust in your music. Fuck your excuses. Stay hungry. Stay foolish.
Thank you. That was truly epic.
Yeah. And that's our wrap up.
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah.
Love it.
Awesome. So where can people find you? Everything. I'll have all your links that you sent me in the thing too, but people can find you on Instagram. I'm guessing,
Instagram is Dkozlov, DKOZLOV, and then Influex, INFLUEX.com. And then I've got my new personal brand site coming soon, but that'll be at dima.love, DIMA.LOV. But I'll get you those links as well.
Awesome.
And then on the Influex site, we've got a blog with a ton of free resources and info. So if you're out there building a personal brand or even a podcast brand or any of that, we've got tons of just free trainings available on all of it.
Hell yeah. Awesome. And then you can find us at Surf's Up Podcast on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, which you should hopefully you're already on. And then iTunes is coming soon, but we haven't quite gotten it figured out yet. And then if you'd like to support us, you can donate at patreon.com/Surf's Up Podcast, as well as I'm going to be having Bitcoin link and some other donation links here soon. So thank you. Surf's Up, Godspeed, live loud, and peace out.
Peace out.
Surf's Up, fam. Corey here. Thanks for tuning in to the episode. We're still growing, so we're really happy you hung in with us and made it to the end. Remember, perfection isn't the goal. Progress is. Please like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell, as well as check out our Patreon link in the description if you would like to support us. We'll be seeing you in the waters of life's next swell, so prepare well and exercise your freedom. Thanks for listening, and if you have an interesting story of your own, Surf's Up would love to hear it. Email us for scheduling at surfsuppodcasts@gmail.com. Disclaimer. Surf's Up Podcast is for entertainment and inspirational purposes only. It does not endorse any of the activities discussed on the show.